Okay, so now we're going to put this horsehair and cotton back on the way it came off by tipping it over. Now again, if you have allergies, or if anybody in your house has allergies, it's a better idea to use foam, whether it's 1-inch or 2-inch foam, opposed to putting this back on. But the customer really wanted for me to do this in the least amount of money and also keeping the authenticity of the chair as much as I could. But I also feel that I really need to build this up with a little bit of batting just to get the crown a little bit more. But already it has more crown than it did because I boosted up the springs. Also, I'm going to tell you right now, I had to take an allergy pill because this really does make your nose run. Just that fine horsehair on there, I mean, it's probably 80 to 100 years old or more. So it's very fine now. It's broken up, and it really gets airborne and can represent some problems with health. So this is the batting that I pre-cut to go on here, and pretty much so it's going to sit in like so, and I'm going to do a little trimming so it fits in a little better. I like to start with the back. The back is going to be the challenge when you're upholstering. So starting on the front probably wouldn't make much sense. You want to start where your problem areas are, and that would be the back of it. And as I say, this is a good practice run for your fabric that you're going to be putting on it. Now you can always cut away, and I'm going to bring this to another point here. Something I forgot to mention. This right here is where all the staples are going to go in here. You can see this is where it's made. It's actually routed out a little bit. You can see where the wood is finished off from where it's not. That's where you're going to be stapling. That's your guideline right there, and that's also your guideline for when you put your gimp on later on. That's where it's going to go. Okay, now you know I already overcut this. I'm squishing the padding down just a little bit as I go. You can see it's definitely overcut. Hello. Okay, so there's my first part of it right here. I'm not so worried about these little wrinkles right now. When we reupholster with the other fabric, we can settle that down. Also, another trick is to press. You're pressing this. A lot of it will shrink when you press, and also you want to press it, your material also when you do this. Now here I've got a little bit too much because I overcompensated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back it back out of here. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of little adjustments to this that you have to make. And right in here where I've notched it, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to notch it more. And what that'll do is it'll ease the fabric. And it allows me to bend it underneath more. I apologize, I don't have somebody holding the camera so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I don't have that luxury. Again, you're going to want to take your time with this. There's going to be a lot of little cuts. And the lining on this does not have to be perfect, but the fabric does. So that's what we have so far done. That's what it looks like right there. I went across here. Now when I stretch this over, I should be able to get most of that out. If not, I'm going to have to come back in here and bend it in. But again, this is the lining. I'm not so fussy about that. It's when I get to the actual upholstering of the fabric. Okay, that's what that looks like so far. What I'm doing, I'm trimming this here, making this bigger. That's helping me to get around this part of the chair. Okay, so that's that. Bend the material back in here. Now leaving gaps like this is fine because when you come over with your material, you can come closer to the wood. I'd rather do that than come too close right now and have an issue. Makes the opening larger, like that. When I'm done, I'll trim off the excess. Okay, you can see I'm working from one side to the other side and then going back over to make sure I've stretched the material fairly good. Now I'm going to start to the center here And I'm going to tell you, it could have been just a little longer. So that's what it looks like so far. On this corner, and these corners, what I like to do is bend them in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, I'm going to staple this down, stretch it a little bit more. You can see where in here is where the original tacks were. So you can stretch this good. And then come around the corner here. Now I can come across here and make my corner. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Like I say, it doesn't have to be perfect right now because we're not dealing with the material. Now, in these corners, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take batting and I'm going to stuff these corners with batting like this in these corners. That's going to help me when I actually do the upholstering because I'm filling these nicks and crannies up with the material. Tuck this corner in and then trim away the excess. Alright, so that's a good start on it. This will make it much easier when you're putting your fabric on. Now the next step would be to trim all this off so nothing shows in here. Once that's done, we can go ahead . So now that we have this portion of it done and we're liking the way it fits, now it's time to take the second pattern that we made and to let's say dry fit it on to make the appropriate adjustments we need to make to it. Because when you first layer you put on, you kind of struggle with a little bit to get it on exactly. This one we don't want to struggle, so we want to dry fit it. You're going to see where I notched out around all the corners. You see those little notches right there? What that's going to help is bend. When I have to bend in the material, it helps it go around much better. So around each one of these corners, I notched them. I also had to make some adjustments onto it because when I put my first one on, this wasn't cut deep enough. So this is the time. It's much easier now to retrofit this on and to make the adjustments to it before you actually cut your material. So what you want to do is just go around it and make sure you're happy without stapling it that it folds in the way you want it to. This prior planning helps you to create a much better looking chair. and then any adjustments you have to make to it, you can make you make notes on this pattern, or you cut it out and just get it right, just like in these corners right here. I want to make sure I get this pretty darn good now. And with that batting being all calmed down, now I can get a good feel for how this is going to come around and what I have to do to it. So I'm liking how that's fitting. I think I have to make this just a little longer right in here. So I'm just going to make a note right here. So when I cut my fabric, I cut this longer. It's okay around here, but this is just a little shallow. And especially when I have to turn that corner. I can probably do it a little extra, wouldn't be bad. A little extra through here. So those are the kind of notes that you wanna make when you're cutting it. So I've cut out my pattern now, and of course, just like what I said I was going to do, I added a little extra around here, give me a little leeway around it. I've also put the notches right around each one of these curves to help me bend the fabric. This part right here, I put this pin in here. This has to match the one that I've already done. So each cushion looks the same. This, of course, is the top, which is going to go in here, like so. With the notches, we're just going to bend. You're going to bend it into the corners. That's why you put all these little notches. It definitely helps to be able to go into these corners. Now in here, this is a very extreme bend down into here. So to help the fabric along, I cut a little piece like this. I'm just going to stuff it right into this armchair like that. That's going to fill those gaps up a little bit. Right in here, and that's all. It's just a little piece right here, and that just helps fill that gap. I don't have to push it so far in the material, and so it allows it not to crease so badly. And it gives me something that I can push down into the fabric into. Our goal, of course, is to cover all the wood around here. If you looked at the pictures, the person who did it last line put GIMP around here, and if you don't cut it very evenly, you can run your GIMP all the way around all these if you can't get it perfectly in here. My goal is to try to get it in here because I didn't put GIMP on the other one, so I certainly don't want to put GIMP on this one. Okay, move the camera down so you can see the action a little bit better. Okay, so there it is. It's all stapled across here. And we're going to be working into this corner right here. And I can see I've got a lot of extra play in these corners. So the way you handle that is you're going to take some of this batting and place it in the corners. And that'll tighten up the fabric. You say this fabric's not the most suitable fabric for this type of a chair because it's not very pliable. But you have to deal with what you're given. Okay. I'm going to work on this corner first. I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to stretch that. Okay, and I bent in my fabric. I want to make sure it stays very close to this wood trim here. And the same with this. Now we're working around this corner. And when I tighten that up, it'll be fine. Now I'm going to stop there and I'm going to come back over onto this side of it. Because if I only go to one side and not work on the other side at the same time, I could run into a problem. And again, we're going to take another piece of this and stick it in here. Keeping it very close to the wood. Again, I'm going to come across, bend in my fabric. Keep it very snug to the wood right here. And go ahead and staple the rest of this down. Okay, so that's what we're looking at right now. Around to this side, we're bending our fabric. That's why you put those little notches in there. We're also checking to make sure our pattern is centered, and it is pretty darn good. And here's where you got to give it a pretty good stretch. I missed with those staples. Okay. Back around to this side of it. Okay, another stretch. Okay, now we're going to do with the front. I'm actually going to start right in the center of it. Saving these corners for last. Okay, we're looking pretty good. This is how we're going to finish our corner off. In order to do it this way, you really have to have that fabric stretched down pretty tight. And then don't worry about this, we're going to trim all this off afterwards. And that's exactly where all the gimp is going to go. Too far up. Come down. Okay. Now we're going to trim all the way around it. And I'm going to start applying the gimp. It's not looking too bad. So I trimmed off all the extra fabric around here to make it nice and even. And now it's just about time to add the trim. So there are a couple of things I have left to do. I have to add the trim, and I'm putting 2 rows of gimp on it. And the reason why is I couldn't find a matching gimp that was wide enough to cover. I really wanted something that's 5/8 to 3/4 inch. I couldn't find it, so now I have to go along with it and using 2 rows of gimp. One hitting about the middle of where this is, and then one up above it. So I'm covering all where the old upholstery tacks were. And my staples. And then I have to put a bottom. This is not the actual bottom, this is just a support I put on here. So I have to now put a black bottom base on that. And I'm also going to take a little of the scratch cover. This is Old English scratch cover. And you can see some spots. And it's good to do it now before I put the trim on. You can see here, it's little from just being sitting around or moisture, who knows. But anyway, taking this and rubbing it on here really makes a difference on how it looks. So I'm going to go around the whole base of this and just kind of make it look nice as I can for an old antique chair. I'm going to do the legs, and then after I do that, let it dry for a little while, wipe off the excess, then we're going to add our trim. So I'm going to start on the back of the chair, adding the trim here. And I'm going to go halfway, half and half on the fabric and half on the wood with my first layer. And what you want to do is to take the little glue here, glue it, and then bend it down like this to give it a clean finish. And yeah, your hands might get a little glue on them, and it gets a little hot. It's worth it though. Okay. Now, light on the glue, especially have something like this. This is very open, so I really would have preferred something that's a little bit more closed because the glue can stick out these holes. So I have to go very light with it. So next, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to measure it, and then I'm going to give it an extra ½ inch or so for bending it. And then I'm going to stick my glue on my trim first, right in the center of the trim, and then apply it. Didn't go all the way across. You want to make sure that you're covering this part of it where it's showing. And again, we're going to bend it. Glue it to finish it off. And then sometimes you need to pick your scissors and cut off the part that's fraying underneath. And then we're going to finish it. Okay, so that's our first row. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around the chair with my first row, then we're going to hit the second row. Okay, so it's all glued on. That's what it looks like. All the way around. No staples are showing. No glue. If you have excess glue sticking out, I use a pair of tweezers and I'll just kind of pick it out of the spots. But it's a nice clean finish to it. And I want to point something out. If you're not comfortable with these corners, like if for some reason going around here you messed up, or even around the back, before you put this on, you can take your GIMP and bring it right around. Actually, that's what they had on here. I just didn't elect to redo it that way. And you can glue the GIMP on like that to make it cover, and glue all that on, and then come across with these for a clean finish. You know, don't do it afterwards. Do this first. Staple on my black on the bottom of this to give it a clean finish. There we have it. We're all done. Our last phase is to fix this here. We're just going to put a little more of that scratch cover around these here to make it look a little better. And then we're going to hand it off to the customer and hope she likes it. Thanks for watching.